Okay, guys, please make sure that you have your cameras on so that we can start. Okay, then. Okay. So today, I'm sorry, today we're gonna continue, we're gonna carry on with the first task for the speaking section that we have started with last class. So I know that it might be a bit repetitive, but I don't know, we have an entire week, well, this week that we're about to finish, we have that to practice or well, to see this question. So since we kind of have already seen the theory of it, we have covered, some tips and the structure and how you need to respond and everything. I figured maybe we could practice today, and I'll be giving you some feedback on how you're doing so that we can, I don't know, just master it. So remember what you need to do for this task, though. What they do is they give you a prompt or a question in which they're asking about your opinion on something, which is usually a familiar conversational everyday topic, something like work or education or health or environment. Sometimes it gets a bit harder, like environment or the government or politics or even business decisions or sometimes law. But it's usually about something that you could that you could have, that you could talk about with a friend or something. So remember that they usually give you like a bunch of options from which you have to choose one and explain. And remember that the timing for this one was 15 seconds to prepare and 45 seconds to deliver the response. That was it. And also about the structure. If you guys remember, the way that you need to structure it is always from bigger to smaller. So you start by giving a short intro, a brief intro, something like, I believe that, and then you tell me your position, right? So I believe that this should be like this, or this shouldn't be like that, or this is the best option, whatever. And then you tell me your argument or your reason, since, I don't know, then you tell me something that's justifying that. And then you move on to your example, which I really want to see. And we have also seen that sometimes you could have two arguments and two examples, perhaps. But I think that's why this class is gonna be useful, because we're gonna maybe figure out what works for you better. So we're gonna see if you're good with time and you can give two, or if you're okay with one. We will see that today. So any questions before we start? Okay then, guys. So it's gonna be good for practice, believe me. So why don't we start with something, okay, with this one. So this question goes, do you prefer to work from home using a computer or to go to your job location? Provide specific details to support your explanation. So what do you prefer, working from home or going to your job location? So please prepare your response. You have 15 seconds. Okay, guys. So anybody wants to go first? Okay, so then I'll have to pick like 3 people to do it, and then we'll move on to a different question. Maybe we can start today with Corina.
Okay.
Okay, so you can go now.
I absolutely believe that working from home is better because you are more comfortable in your house. For example, this whole year I've been working from home and I can I can sit on my favorite chair and I can drink a cup of tea and I feel very comfortable. Besides that, I think you can do the same thing you do in the office. You can do it in your home. Um, I really think that it's better to work from home for those reasons.
Okay, perfect. So awesome. You know, you had two arguments, one example, and you still had time to even give a conclusion. So I think that's just great. You know, that's a really big problem for some people. So I think that, yeah, that could perfectly work for you. I noticed that you were using your transitions. Like besides, you could do the exact same thing that you do in your at the office. So great. And also, I loved your examples. You see how that they added variety to your response. So you were using, you know, even different tenses. So you said, for instance, this whole year I've been working from home, and you know, it has worked for me. So that's good. I wouldn't really have any, you know, I wouldn't really change anything out of your response. So maybe at the end, that conclusion, maybe it could be better. So instead of saying for those reasons, maybe you could say, you know, that's why, or not in conclusion, I don't know, but okay, maybe not. Let's think about it. Next time we're gonna see how it can work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about giving exceptions in response?
Try not to do it. Like you mean, except when you do that, like this wouldn't work in case you do that. You mean like counterclaims to this? Or what do you
mean? If it had been my response, I would have said that I prefer working from home, excepting if I have to do some technical activities.
Okay, so yeah, well, I would say that it's always better to have a strong position, as you know, as strong and as close as it could be, because if you have like exceptions or if you have like counterclaims, like however, it will be better to work from your job location when you have to do these technical things. That's just going to make it a bit more complicated, not only for you but also for them to understand what you're saying, you know, to understand what your position is here. And the easier for them to get that, the better for you. So always try to have, you know, a strong position. Just go for one and don't reject it yourself.
Thank you.
Okay. So, all right, let's go with someone else. Maybe Melissa.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe that it's better to go to the job location due to the fact that you can work in group, and also you can have better ideas to develop. To illustrate that, I have been doing my practice this year, and it was so difficult doing in my home. So I prefer to go to the job location. Also, I develop better ideas, and I have a lot of improvements that we can do it in group that we couldn't have if we are in our homes. So I think it's better to go to the job location.
Okay, so perfect. Again, you had time to give two arguments, which is great. What I would do though is if you're gonna give two arguments, you don't have, or you don't need to. Okay, where's the template? You don't need to summarize them at the beginning. Like, I believe this, since you can develop good ideas and work in, I don't know, in work as a team, because then you're gonna the same arguments and it may sound a bit repetitive. So just say your position and then you start maybe with a transition there, like to start, you can develop new ideas. A good example, and then you tell me the example and so on. So try to do that, and also try not to repeat your position until the end. So not here. So I prefer to, or that's why I prefer to work from home, or I think that's why I prefer to go to my job location. And then you add something else. Try to leave that until the very end, not in the middle.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
All right. And okay, let's go for a different question. So, okay. Okay, maybe this one. So professors should make attendance at their classes mandatory. Do you think that this is a good idea? Give reasons and details to support your argument. So should attendance be mandatory? Please prepare now. Okay then. So maybe now we can go with, okay, Kate.
Okay,
Okay, so you go ahead.
absolutely. I think that attendance shouldn't be mandatory, especially in university, since there are a lot of information, especially in the web. And usually professors don't give us all the information that we need. They only give us a guide to support our ideas. For example, in this pandemic, we get used with many information of the web, so I think we can learn more about that.
Okay, okay, perfect. So you were using, all right, good. Okay, nothing to say really, you know, it was a structure, it had two arguments in this case, and then the example. But it was okay because the example was illustrating really both of the arguments. So in that case, it's fine to organize it that way, you know. If the example was just for one argument, then it would have been better if you know, if you could leave it right after the argument. But it's okay. I could tell you, you know, some tips, especially if you plan on using this as your template. At the beginning, careful with you know, the sentence order, like I absolutely think, right? Instead of absolutely, I think. And I like the connectors you were using, you know, you said since instead of saying because, so that's good. And also be careful, maybe you could practice this grammar thing. Okay, I don't know what this is called. Basically, there is versus there are, right? With uncount nouns. For instance, information, which is a uncountable noun, it will be there is a lot of information. So practice that so that it doesn't hurt your score. And also the tenses. If you're given an example, and if you say like in this pandemic, I don't know, you could use a better tense. So we got used to it, or we have gotten used to using the web, but it wouldn't really be the simple present there. So careful with the tenses in the examples. And yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So maybe Oshin? Okay, go ahead.
I definitely believe that is not a good idea because the student often only attends to complete and does not miss class. But there is no such curiosity to learn or attend classes only out of obligation. For instance, in my university, this situation happened a lot. Many of my friends only attended for this reason and not because wanting to learn.
Okay, great. Nice. All right, in this case, I think for you, it's just one argument, one example, it works fine. Okay, what I could tell you, some tips, I think this could work for everyone. So this is something that I've noticed a lot, in the responses. So when you're gonna say something with like it's, for instance, it's better to, or it's a good idea, or it's not a good idea, or I don't know, it's not the best option, whatever that you're gonna say that it starts with it, try to over pronounce the it, like it's, make it obvious that you're saying it, because otherwise they may be, getting confused and they're like, would that count as a grammar mistake? And grammar mistakes do matter here. What else? Also the ed pronunciations. Try to make sure that you practice those ed pronunciations, and also make sure that when you're pronouncing them in your response, like that time that I worked until they eat. So I'm just over pronouncing it a bit so that I can, make sure that they know that I'm using that tense. So practice those pronunciation tips, and yeah, also maybe the connectors, like instead of saying but, you could say however, right? Or instead of saying cause, which is okay, but you could use better. So you could use better ones. So yeah, just that. Okay then. Any questions now? All right, so it's gonna get a bit more complicated. So this one is, smokestacks on all large companies should be modified so that no harmful pollutants are emitted into the atmosphere. Do you think that this is a good idea? Give reasons and details to support your argument. So you can read it because it's a bit long. And now you can start preparing your response. 15 seconds. Okay. So maybe we can give David. Yeah. You think you can go?
Me, teacher.
No, sorry, I said David.
It's okay.
Oh.
Me, can I try the second? O sea, hacer la segunda, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay, that's good. So David, you go first. Go
Sure,
ahead.
thank you. In my opinion, smokestacks should be definitely modified, since contamination is already a very serious problem in our planet. And secondly, smokestacks could affect negatively to their company-owned workers. We're talking about large companies, so I think they can definitely afford for modifications. That is why I think that's the best thing to do.
Okay, great. So, right, you had two arguments. I know, I usually say, try to give examples. Now, in cases in which you have like these very general topics, like smokestacks and companies, so I know it's hard, to make it personal and everything. So in that case, it's totally fine if you just, give two arguments and so, which is what you did. So great. I like the vocabulary. For instance, you said, so we're talking about large companies who can for sure afford modifications. So that those words, that word choice, that's good, speaking of money or funds, or I don't know, or investing, those types of words, that's really gonna help. Okay, I have something to say for this task, but let's give Natalia a chance and then we'll see.
Okay, can I try?
Yeah, so you can go now.
Okay, I think that the whole aspect of the smoke should be modified. First, because it damages the environment a lot and the whole atmosphere. Second, companies should be a little more careful with that. And it's very damage for the whole atmosphere and the environment. And that is why I think that the smoke is harmful to the environment and the atmosphere.
Okay, nice. Thanks, Natalia. So, okay, so I think it's a good time to say. Okay, so I like both of your responses. You both were talking about, the environment, which is, yes, for sure, the main thing here. And that's what I wanted to say. So for instance, Natalia, you said first, because it's damaging the environment and we need to take care of it. And second, and then you kind of say the same thing in the second argument. You said they should be careful because it's again damaging the environment. So if your arguments are going to be the same, then try to just make it look like it's one so that you don't sound redundant. Sorry. And okay, but I have a good tip for this type of question. So yeah, sometimes you're going to find these questions that look so complicated, like you had to know something about smokestacks or companies or how this works. And the truth is that you don't really need to know exactly what they mean, but you can sometimes turn things around, like for your own good, or like make it easier for you. So environment, remember, that's a very common topic here. And one way you could answer this question is saying, well, yeah, I for sure think that they should do that, since we need to take care of the environment and we need to do everything that we can in order to improve this situation, whatever. And then you can, instead of explaining, why smokestacks should do that, you can just tell me why we should, or anyone who could do something should do something in order to help the environment. So you could, change things and start talking about, I don't know, maybe, why it's important to take care of the environment. You could say, because animals are dying, or because it's damaging our health, or I don't know. But, have some arguments prepared for environmental issues, and you could always go there, For instance, I have a different question here that it's basically the same. I mean, you could answer it in the same way. Building contractors should be required to install clean energy producing solar panels on all new homes. Is this a good idea? So it's not really about building contractors or energy even, or solar panels. The question is more like, do you think that we should do something to protect the environment? So you could have the same response prepared for all those types of questions, So look for those patterns in the questions. Okay, is that okay? Any questions? Okay. So, okay, maybe we can do this one now. Do you prefer to buy used cars, or do you believe that you should always buy a new car? Illustrate your argument with reasons and supporting details, I guess. So used cars or new cars? 15 seconds. All right. So maybe now we can have Paola. Okay.
Yes, teacher.
You want to go now?
Yes, teacher.
All right, so off you go.
Well, in this case, I believe that people should buy used cars for is cheaper than buying a new buying new cars. So in my case, it will be impossible to buy a new car because they are too expensive. But if I save enough money, maybe for 1 year, 2 years, I totally believe that in my case, I could buy used car.
All right, nice, great. So I like your argument, you know, your example. What I could tell you is don't make your introduction so long. So I think you maybe you took a bit long to just state what your position is. Try to make that as a bit more direct, and then you will have a bit more time to explain everything. What else? Don't forget your transitions. In my case, it's okay, but try not to repeat it so much, you know? You could say, for instance, or personally, or I don't know, in my experience, but try not to repeat the same one. And yeah. So is that okay?
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Okay then. And someone else, maybe who's missing? Who hasn't done it? Mel, right? I think you just joined.
Hi, Miss.
Hi there. Okay, so wanna do it? Wanna give it a try?
Can I see the question again?
Sure. Do you prefer used or new cars?
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
I think the best option would be to buy new cars instead of used cars. The reason would be that a used car has already years with history. That will mean that it would need more maintenance or reparations or any other technical requirement. Instead, a new car is all new. It will last more years. It will be more yours. It will not have an historic background. So, in my opinion, a used car is better if you're planning for using it in a longer term. Thanks.
All right, great. So what I want to say, you know, some people may think that, so your arguments, they were really well explained. And, you know, it was like a comparison, but it wasn't exactly, you know, a comparison of both the advantages and disadvantages of each one of them. So yeah, that's totally fine to do, you know, if you're wondering that. So because you were telling me the, you know, the downside of used cars and the bright side of new ones. So you can for sure do that, and it works as an argument. Maybe I would try to add an example, preferably a personal one, since I think you really have a good level. So you could maybe, I don't know, tell me something about your own experience or make something up. But yeah, nice response, good response. Okay. And Oshin now?
Okay.
So you go ahead.
I definitely believe that it's depend on your budget. A good choice of a used car will often be better than buying a brand new car. And to illustrate that, in my case, I will buy a used car since it will fulfill its purpose, which is only to transport myself, and it would not be a very expensive investment.
Okay, nice. So, okay, so you know what? It was really good, like really, really good. It looked like, have you written your response down? Like when you were preparing or something? No?
Can I try?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Go, Natalia.
Okay. I prefer to buy a new car. First, because you do not know how they have the used car. If it had all these man maintenance, and second, it is good to have a new car because it is one of your preference. Are you many times have a car sell 0 kilometers? It is much better than having a used car, which is why I prefer a new car.
All right, great. So, you gave two arguments. Maybe, which you also gave an example, kind of. So you said, a 0 kilometers car would be better than a used one. So, but I would try to add a transition before, just to notice that it's an example. You could say a zero, or this car, for example, would be 100% better than a used one. Or then you can tell me if you know the brand of a different car. I don't know. So, and the conclusion, maybe I would change the transition instead of saying which is why, because which, is that referring to the whole thing? I'm sorry for that. So I was saying, Natalia, I think that overall that was a great, amazing response. So well done. Okay. All right then. And what I was saying before, when you're right now, I know that you guys are not really, or some of you get the 15 seconds to prepare, but some of you are like getting a bit more, while the others speak. So when you're preparing, try to prepare, exactly with those 15 seconds. Try to make it as realistic as it could be. And I would even say that it's better if you prepare or if you practice without those 15 seconds so that you learn to improvise and to say things as you go and you're not so, because sometimes maybe, it's tentative to try to write the whole response down, but that wouldn't be realistic. So you gotta try to get used to the idea of doing that. Okay, then. All right, this one, a very common one. If you could either, okay, sorry. If you could either live near the university with heavy rent or far away but with a cheap rent, I think. Okay, let's change this. So if you could either live near college with heavy rent or far away but with a cheaper rent, what would you do? Which one would you go for? Support your response with details and examples. So now you got 15 seconds to prepare it. Okay. So maybe Melissa.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
I absolutely prefer live far away from university due to the fact that you can earn a lot of money. To illustrate it better, you can use public transport to go to the university and you can earn a lot of money. And that money you can use with other things like materials for your career or other things that you can really need that money instead of using in a rent that is so far, so close to the university, but you can do like, you can live, I'm sorry, you can live, ay, lo siento, mi perro me ha desconcentrado.
That's fine, Elisa. I think, you know, it was good. It was, you know, I think it was really good. You know, that last part only, but that was because you got distracted. That's okay. But if that happens, you know what to do. You were like 5 seconds away. You could have just said, so that's why I think so, or something like that. But overall, nice. You know, I really like your response. Maybe it was a bit disorganized. I would try to organize it a bit better. I think that you just have too many ideas in mind, but you know, it's good. You just need to practice maybe organizing them. But great, you know, overall. I would say look for some vocabulary, for instance. Okay, where is it? You know, college-related vocabulary. And this is for all of you guys. But yeah, nothing to say really. Just great.
Okay, thank you, mate. Sorry.
All right. And David.
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead.
In case I could afford it, I would like to definitely live near university. First of all, I could save a lot of time while traveling, and I could use that extra time for resting or for my studies. Secondly, that would be safer, so I wouldn't have to take public transportation. And in some countries, you can be robbed while walking on the streets. I think living near the university would be a much less stressful life.
All right. Nice. So great. I like you. You know, I really like your response. Good. You have two good, strong arguments. Maybe, you know, I would, you know, because you have good level, I could consider trying to add like a more personal example. And yeah, nothing really, you know. No comments. Maybe that I think you could replace it with some other verse, but just, you know, something tiny. Nothing else really. And another thing, yeah, before I forget, you know, practice like the order of adverbs. So for instance, instead of saying, I would like to definitely be, it would be, you know, I definitely would like to leave, or I definitely would like to leave. So that order in which we place the adverbs, maybe, but you know.
All right, I got confused. That's why.
Yeah, it happens, but it's okay. It wouldn't really hurt that much your score, so no worries. Okay, let me see. Okay, perhaps we can go with this one.
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure about how, in the beginning, how to start, because everyone says, I think, in my opinion, and says, are there other ways to start?
You know, it's like it depends. So there are other ways to start. Like for instance, you could start by stating a fact. You know, like a very general fact, something like, okay, let's go with this example. Where is it? This one is the one that we're going to be doing. So it says, Do you agree or disagree with this? People who sell illegal drugs should not be sentenced to prison. So you could start by giving a very general fact, something that everyone knows, something like, for instance, we live in a very, or everyone's afraid to go out at night. I don't know, something like that, you know, that may be or may not be so related to it. But basically by stating something, okay, probably not that example, maybe something like drugs have serious consequences on our health. So, but the thing is, if you're gonna do that, then you would have to think of other arguments to provide them. You know, you cannot really repeat the same one. So I prefer, or I would say that people who sell illegal drugs need to be sentenced to prison. And since you would have to have different arguments there. So it will require more thinking and it will be a bit harder. What you could do instead is just try to look for other ways to start with directly, you know, with your position. So here are some phrases, I think. So instead of saying, I think, or I believe, or in my opinion, you could restate the question. You could say something like, I don't know, when it comes, where is it? Okay, I don't know what it is. Okay, here. So when you can tell me, when it comes to drugs, I think that people who sell it should be sentenced to prison. Or if you have something like this, you know, when it comes to deciding where to work, I believe that, I don't know, I believe that it's better to do it from home. Or when it comes to studying, I prefer to do it in a library, you know, so that's a different phrase that you could use. Or you could just say, you know, one of these other things that we have here, like the way I see it, it's way better to study from home. Or this one, you know, adding a structure in there. So if I were to choose between studying at home or in the library, I would try to study at home. Or if you ask me, you know, so there are some other phrases, but I think it's always better I don't really know what you mean. So if you mean like, do I always need to start with my position? So not really, but it's better if you do. It's easier and it's more direct. Now, do I always need to start using the same words like I think or I believe? So obviously not, right? You can use different ones. So did I answer your question?
Yes, teacher, thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. So yeah, you know, a lot of people think that it's better to start that way, you know, like we live in a society where drugs is a big problem. So that phrase, for instance, we live in a society where is very, very used. You could use different phrases, but I don't know, I think it's always more direct and it also saves time if you start right off with your position. Of course, that you don't really have to use the same words, like in my opinion, or I think. You could use other ones, but it's better if you do start with your position. Okay, so let's go with this one. I have already read it, but here it goes again. People who sell illegal drugs should not be sentenced to prison. Do you agree or disagree? 15 seconds. Okay. So maybe now, Karina?
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Without a doubt, the people who sells drugs should be sentenced to prison because without the proper punishment, they will be on the streets selling drugs again. That's what this study illustrates. 1 of 10 people who are not sent to prison after selling drugs will be selling it again in less than a month. Besides, it is a crime and it should be sentenced. And that's the reason why I believe that this drug selling thing should be punished.
Awesome. Perfect. So, in this case, you started differently. You said, without doubt or undoubtedly, people who sell drugs should go to prison. So great. And it also, makes you sound a bit more sure of what you're saying. So I love that. I also love the study or the example that you were giving. Perfect example. There's this study that proves that 1 out of 10 people who sell drugs and they don't go to prison, start selling again. So great example. Maybe I would try to use the transition there. Like, for instance, there is a study that proves that, just to anticipate the example, but I wouldn't really say anything else to you. So great.
Thank you.
All right. And maybe now, Paula.
Okay, teacher.
All right.
Well, to be honest, I didn't think I think people shouldn't go to prison because they sell drugs, because if they are only selling, they can maybe they do that for a living. But if we provide this that is illegal, it's more dangerous for a society. Actually, there are some countries that allow to sell drugs. I don't know.
Okay. So,
Sorry, teacher.
why? Sorry, what do you think? What happened?
I get confused because I don't know how to say that, because even in Spanish, I don't know how to express myself in this situation.
Okay. So the thing is, yeah, maybe, you personally think, that's your opinion, that, yeah, people who sell drugs should not be sentenced to prison. So you agree. But the thing is, you want to go for the argument that's easier to explain. And to be honest, the easiest argument to explain here is disagreeing with this, to be honest, because it's easier to say why people should go to jail, and you could even have, arrange arguments. Okay, I'm going to go off topic a bit and then I'll come back. So for instance, in this question, I've seen a lot of questions that are like this. Do you think that people who do, and then you have a crime in there, whatever it is, that people who, I don't know, or do something, morally wrong, like create or violent people or something that you could say is morally wrong, should be punished in some way, whether it's going to prison or going to rehab or something like that. So that's a very common type of question, and you could use like very arranged common arguments here. For instance, you could say, yeah, because punishment is the best way to learn, so they're only going to learn when they're punished. Or you could say, yes, because people tend to learn from watching other people, so people who are not selling drugs, they're going to learn that this is wrong. So there are these arguments that you could use for every type of question, even if you don't personally think so, even if, you yourself are against this idea or something. So try to go for what's easier to explain. And yeah, so yeah, I think that's the only thing.
I think if you're not sure about your opinion, you could just make up something. Since they don't care about whatever you say, they just care about how well you speak.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. So that's true. They don't care really what your answer is, whether it's because, you could say that, you could say that, yeah, you disagree and that or that you agree they shouldn't be sentenced to prison. but you would have to explain yourself well, you know, and I think that's what you were struggling with, just explaining yourself. So, yeah, you just have to think here and the fastest way to do it, and yeah. Okay, guys. All right. Okay, so now who wants to do it? I'm not gonna force anybody now. Anyone wants to go before we leave? No?
I would like to try.
Yeah, sure. Perfect, Melissa. So, go ahead.
But I'm sorry. It's I'm sorry. It's the same about drugs.
Yeah, or would you prefer to do a different one?
If I can, it will be better. But if
Okay.
not, I can try.
No, for sure. So let's go with this one. A student should never be allowed to submit assignments after their due dates. Is that a good idea? Not to allow late assignments? So I'll give you 15 seconds to prepare. Okay,
Okay.
all right. So go ahead.
I definitely believe that professors shouldn't allow late assignment due to the fact that all the students that are working so hard to present this assignment in the right time, others are just not doing nothing, and it's not so good for the others that are responsible. To illustrate it, when I am in classes, I remember that I have a friend that didn't do anything until the last day, and I remember that the professor didn't allow him to present the paper late.
Okay, perfect. So just in time, perfect. Well done. Yeah, you know, good argument. Loved your example. What I could say again, you know, vocabulary related to, you know, assignments or school or university. For instance, the verb hand in, you know, to hand in their assignments on time or submit even, you know, submit, hand in instead of present. So, and careful with the tenses. I just noticed one tense that was out of context in your example. You said I have a friend, which would be I had a friend, but everything, you know, all the other tenses were correct. So yeah, you can for sure pull that off. And yeah, just that. I think awesome response.
Thank you. I will practice more and also find a lot of academic vocabulary.
Yeah. Yeah, vocabulary is key, really. Okay, guys. Any questions? Do you have any questions about the class overall or any comments? No? Okay. All right then. So before you leave, please, I just started today's survey. So could you please answer those 3 questions for me before you go? Okay. I think I'm just missing one. All right, now I got it. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next week. Hope you have a nice evening.
Thank you, Miss. Bye.
You.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.